All right. So here we are on Learn Intermediate Algorithm Thinking by Building a Dice Game, Step 45. So if the user does not get a 3 of a kind or 4 of a kind, then they will not receive any points for that round. At the end of our get highest duplicates function, we're going to call the update radio option function with the arguments 5 and 0. All right. So we're in the get highest duplicates. It's been 2 days since I've done this. Get highest duplicates. Okay. So at the end of this, we're going to call the update radio option function. Update radio option. Where's that? This one right here. Okay. Score inputs, option node. Score inputs at option node dot disabled false. Score inputs at option node dot value score inputs at option node dot text content is this template literal. I forgot what we were doing. Anyway, whatever. We'll see in just a little bit. So we're going to call this with the arguments of 5 and 0. Okay, so we'll say update radio option. Let's tab this over one. And we'll give it the arguments of 5, 0. So 5 is going to be the option node. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. None of the above if the score is 0. Okay, makes sense. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so we're doing these ifs. So if it's this one, so we're going from highest to lowest. So if it's a 3, if it's more than 3 or more than 4, we're going to do the highest count equals count. Okay, and then we'll do the sum of all dice, reduce all that, you know, and if it it's going to sum all these together. So if the highest count is above 4 on the get highest duplicates, we're going to make it the sum of all dice. Same with 3. And this one's going to be 0 right here. So when it's going to say radio option 0, sum of all dice, update radio option 1, sum of all dice. So it's this one. And if there's no duplicates, we're just going to say update radio option 5 and 0 like this. So it's going to say 5, which is this one, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the score is 0. All right, so makes sense. Let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 46. So now it's time to see the result of our get highest duplicate function. Inside the else clause of the roll dice button callback function, we'll call the get highest duplicates function and pass in the dice values R for the argument. We'll try rolling the dice a few times to see if we can get 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, or none of the above. What? So we're going to call this get highest duplicates inside of the roll dice. Okay. So right here we'll say get highest duplicates. And then we'll do dice values R as the argument. All right. Okay. And so let's roll the dice. None of the above. There's just 2 in that one. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Oh, come on now. Oh, come on now. Well, whatever. Bad luck. Doesn't matter. Let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 47. So before each dice roll, we will need to reset the values for the score inputs and spans. Inputs and spans so a new value can be displayed. We'll start by creating an arrow function called reset radio option. Okay, so before each dice roll, we'll need to reset the values of the scores, inputs, and spans. I guess that makes sense. So we will start by creating an arrow function called this, reset radio option. Const reset radio option. All right. And this is going to equal the set of parentheses with no parameters in it. And then we'll also have this right here, the empty. Come on. It's Sunday. It's the first day of the week. Empty object. Let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 48. So for each of the score units, we will need to disable the input and remove its checked attribute. So we're going to start by using a for each on the score inputs. For the callback function, we'll use input for the parameter name. Okay. So we'll say score inputs dot for each, and then we'll have input, an arrow, and an empty object like this for now. Let's go look at score inputs because I forgot what that was. Score inputs. Is that something we made? Score inputs. Okay, and where did we change that? Score inputs. Oh, right here. Right here. The score input at option nodes is disabled or whatever. All right, cool. So yeah, there's that. Let's check the code. Looks good and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 49. So inside our callback function, we're going to set the input's disabled property to true and the checked property to false. Okay. So inside the callback function, inside of here, we'll set input's disabled property to true. So input dot disabled equals true. Input dot checked equals false. All right. Let's check it. Looks good and submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 50. So for each of the score span elements, we're going to need to reset the text content. We'll start by adding a for each to our score spans variable. And for the callback function, we'll use span for the new parameter name. Inside the callback function, we'll set the text content for each span to an empty string. All right. So we'll start by adding a for each to our score spans variable. And this is all to reset the span elements. Okay, so we'll say score, tab it over one, score spans dot for each. And then we're going to have the span for the parameter name. And then inside here, we'll set the text content for each span to an empty string. Let's do it like this because earlier they got us for that. And we'll say span dot text content now equals an empty string like that. We'll cap that off with a semicolon. Let's check the code. Looks good and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 51. So to see the results of our reset radio option function, we're going to need it to call the function inside the roll dice button callback function. Okay. So now we're going to try rolling the dice again, and we should see that the previous score inputs and spans were reset before each roll. Okay, so to see the results of the reset radio option function, we will need to call the function inside the roll dice button callback function. So we're inside of here, inside of its event listener, and we're already done with if rolls equals 3, we do the alert, else rolls plus plus, and then we're going to do roll, that's not it. We'll say roll dice btn like that. Let's cap that off with a semicolon. Check the code. Nope. Come on. We should call the, okay. We should call the reset radio option function inside the roll dice button. Okay, so we're inside of roll dice. My bad. Reset radio option. Okay. To see the results, we will need to call the function inside of this. Okay, so that's what it said. Let's check the code. Looks good. And submit. I want to test it out over here, though. Okay. I don't really see the difference. Hold on. Let's take this out and try it again. It looks the same, doesn't it? Whatever. And submit it. All right, now we're on to 52, step 52. When we roll the dice and make a selection, we are not able to keep the score we selected and move on to the next round. I believe it. We still haven't, I've been rolling this thing forever and we still haven't gotten any kind of score. When are we going to get a 3 of a kind? Whatever. Bad luck, huh? I shouldn't play dice, should I? Anyway, when we roll the dice and make a selection, we're not able to keep the score we selected to move on to the next round. I'll take your word for it because I've never made a score on this. In the next few steps, we will build out an algorithm that keeps track and displays each score for all 6 rounds of the game. Okay? We'll start by creating an arrow function called update score that has 2 parameters called selected value and achieved. Okie doke. We'll do that right now. We'll say const update score equals. We'll have inside of here selected value, comma, achieved. All right. We'll have the arrow and then the empty object thusly. All right. And so that should be good for now. Let's cap it off with a semicolon. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 53. So the selected value parameter represents the option the user chose during that round. This one. Okay. So to update the score, we will need to use the plus equals compound assignment operator to add the selected value to the total score. We'll make sure to wrap our selected value parameter inside a parse int, since this string value needs to be converted to an integer. You got it. All right, so we'll need to use this to add selected value to total score. So total score plus equals selected value. And we'll make sure to wrap this inside the parse int to make sure it's an integer. Okay. So let's do that. What? If we're doing plus equals, okay, let's do it. All right, let's go selected value plus equals total score. And let's wrap this whole thing in a parse int. I've never done that. Does that work? Parse int. Let's cap that off with a semicolon just in case it does work. No, that's what I thought. We should convert the selected value into, okay, so let's do it on the next line. Let's get rid of this. Let's say parse int and then put selected value in it. Maybe that's what they want, because that might make sense. Come on now. Total score plus equals, okay, let's try that. Let's say total score plus equals selected value. And let's wrap the selected value in a parse int. How about that? Parse int. Okay, there we go. Okay. Maybe that's exactly what they said and I just read it wrong. We will need to use the plus to add the this to that. Okay, yeah, so this should have gone first. Okay, well, you know what? You know how it goes. Let's roll the dice and see if I got lucky. Oh, look, 21. All right, so at least I got lucky on that one. And submit it. So now we're on to step 54. So next we're going to set the text content of total score text, to the value of total score. Below that, we'll append the following template literal to the score history elements HTML. We'll put a list item with the embedded expression with achieved in it, with the achieved argument in it. And then we'll have the selected value as the value. So we'll have, this is the key and this is the value. Okay. So that's what we're doing. We're setting the text content of this to this. Okay. So let's do that. We'll say total score text dot text content. Now what? Now set the text content of this to the value of total score. Okay, equals total score. All right. And then below that, we'll append the following template literal to the score history element. So we'll say score history plus equals, and then we'll do the template literal. We'll do the list item. Let's close the list item while we're at it. And then inside the list item, we will put the embedded expression with achieved in it. Let's put a space with a colon and another embedded expression. And then we'll fill these both up. This first one we'll put achieved. Nope. And then the second one we'll do selected value. And that should be what they want. Let's check the code. Come on now. Okay, plus equal to append this to the inner HTML. Come on now. To the elements HTML. Yeah, that makes sense. Dot inner HTML. All right. So let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 55. Pardon me. So after a user makes a selection, they should be able to keep they should be able to keep that score and move on to the next round. We're going to add an event listener to our keep score button variable that takes in a click event for the first argument and an empty arrow function for the second argument. All right. So we'll do just that. We'll say keep score btn dot add event listener, and with that one we're going to do a click event, and then after that for the first argument, for the second argument, we'll just do an empty arrow. So we'll have the what is that, the parentheses, the arrow, and the empty object like that. Let's cap the thing off with a semicolon, check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now on to step 56. So when a radio button is checked, we will need to save its value and ID. Okay. Okay. So inside our event listener function, we'll create two let variables called selected value and achieved. What? Two let variables. Oh, okay. So we'll say let selected value. Don't we already have a selected value somewhere? Nowhere near. All right, so let selected value. And then we'll also have let achieved. And remember, consts, we can't do this because it's got to have something because it's read-only. But since let can be changed at any time, it's fine if it equals null, which this, in effect, equals right now, because we can just change it later, right? So let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 57. So to figure out which selection was made, we will need to loop through each radio button to see which one has the checked attribute. We're going to use a for of loop to loop through each of the score inputs. The variable name for the for of loop should be called radio button. All right. Motivation and Andrew Huberman. What's going on? Are there two of you? And one of them's named Motivation? Anyway, I'm just kidding. How you doing today? So here we go. We're going to be using a for of loop to loop through each of the score inputs. So we'll say for, and then we'll say const radio. No. Const radio button of score inputs. All right, and then we'll have this object like that. Let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 58. So if the current radio button inside the loop has the checked attribute, then we will need to get its value and ID. Pardon me. So we're going to add an if statement inside our for loop. Anyway, whatever. You know what's going on. We're going to add an if statement inside the for loop with a condition of radio button dot checked. All right. So if the current radio button inside the loop has a checked attribute, then we will need to get its value and ID. So we're getting the value and ID if it's checked. Okay. So inside our if statement, we'll assign radio button dot value to selected value and assign radio button dot ID to achieved. Okay. And at the bottom of our if statement, we'll add the break keyword to ensure that we break out of the loop when the selected radio button was found. Okay. So we're going to add an if statement. Let's start off with that. We'll say if give me just a second, Andrew. So if, and we'll say inside here, if radio button dot checked is true, what we're going to do here inside our if statement, we'll assign radio button dot value to selected value. So we'll say selected value equals radio button dot value. All right. And then we'll say achieved equals radio button dot ID. Right. At the bottom of the if statement, we'll add a break keyword to ensure that we break out of the loop when the selected radio button is found. Okay. So we'll say what? At the bottom. Okay. So we'll say break after that. That should be what they want. Let's check the code. No. Should an if to check if the current radio button has a checked property. Checked, not check. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now on to step 59. All right. So where do you want to start? Where can you start coding? I'd start at this. In fact, I wouldn't say I would because I did. Where I did start was here. Let me show you. Right here. Responsive web design. Start with this one. Go through it. This one's real easy. You just go through all the way through and get to this one and finish it up. All right. If you need any help on these, just type in like learn CSS transform by building a penguin steps 25. Let's actually do that so I can show you. Step 25. And you can see right here, there's a Codeman S video for it. It's the same for any of these. I've got videos for all of them. After you do that, don't start with this one yet, the JavaScript algorithms and data structures. Just come down here, do the legacy JavaScript algorithms and data structures certification. Go through this whole thing. I didn't understand it all at first, but then I went all the way to here. Let me go down. I got all the way to here before realizing that this is not the best way to do things. At some point, I said Code Wars. I don't remember when, but Code Wars is the next step after the legacy, right? Do the legacy, go to Code Wars, do a bunch of these. I have like 700 videos on it. So 700 is the win number I did, 700 plus, and then come back to this one right here, the beta current, whatever it is called, this one here, and then just start going from there. These ones, everything after this is pretty much outdated stuff until you get to this Python, but it's still a lot of this is outdated. I don't know about the rest of this stuff here, but it's still pretty good, to at least get your feet wet. Right? So that's what I suggest. Anyway, let's get back to it. Out. Okay, so now we're on to step 59. So if the user makes a selection then the rounds, rolls, and scores should be updated. Also, yeah, 1 second. Let's go here. Codeman S. Boom. Also, there's this video here. This one here. No, that's not it. Anyway, there's a video. There should be a video on my main page somewhere that says, anyway, whatever. It says like learn JavaScript easy. I don't know. Anyway, just do what I told you before I started talking about this stuff, and you'll do fine. All right, so back to 59. You know, you gotta work, man. You gotta work every day. Take 1 day off a week. So if the user makes a selection, then the rounds, rolls, and scores should be updated. We'll add an if statement to check if selected value is truthy. If so, reassign the number 0 to rolls, okay, and increment round by 1. What are we doing? So if the user makes a selection, then the rounds, rolls, and scores should be updated. So we'll add an if statement to check if selected value is truthy. If it is, we'll reassign rolls to 0 and increment round by 1. Okay, so let's do that. We'll say if selected value, all right, and then we're going to say rolls equals 0 and round plus plus. All right, that makes sense. Okay, so then we're going to call the update stats and reset radio buttons function. All right, and lastly, we'll call the update score function and pass in selected value and achieved for the arguments. Okay, this is all inside the if. I wonder. We'll see. All right, so we'll say update stats reset radio option. Also, both of these are functions, so have the little parentheses. So we're going to update the stats. We're going to reset the radio options back to this. And then we're going to say update score. And inside here, we'll do selected value, comma, achieved, like that. Now we should be able to roll the dice, make a selection, keep a score, and have the score display under the score history. Let's see if that's even true. Oh, look, we got a score. 3 of a kind. Let's take it. All right, round 2. Look at that. Wee, woo, wee, yay. Okay, that's a 0. That's a 0. And that's another 0. We're done. I guess we got to keep that one. None. Roll your boat. Keep it. Oh, we can't go. I should have kept that other one. Well, whatever. I guess that's gambling, huh? How many rounds do we get? I'm going to keep this one because you never know. I hate this game. I really hate this game, especially the part where I got to click up here. Round 7, I thought there was like 6 rounds. We haven't made the thing where it stops at 6. You're stuck at HTML step 9. Well, just keep going. I've got a ton of videos. You can just keep going with it. Then you can get up here to intermediate algorithmic thinking by building a dice game and say, I really hate this. But then you think, oh, you know what sucks even more? Anything else. All right, so let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 60. So if we try to click on the keep score button without making a selection, then nothing happens. That makes sense, I thought. So to fix this, we'll add an else clause to our if statement and place an alert inside. For our alert, we'll use the following message. Please select an option or roll the dice. All right. So we'll do else right here. And we'll say alert. Okay. Please select an option or roll the dice There we go. Let's see if that worked. Oh, yeah, we got one. Check the code. Looks good. And submit it. Leave a comment. Like, put your answer in a new comment. And once I get to looking at comments again, I'll check it out and see what you did. All right. So now we're on to step 61. At this point in the game, we are able to roll the dice, make a selection, and play for a few rounds. However, we should notice that there is no end to the game and there are infinite rounds. Yes, we did notice that. According to the rules, there should be a total of 6 rounds, and then the game ends with the final score. So inside the if statement, if our keep score button event listener, So inside the if statement for our keep score button event listener, we're going to add a new if statement to check if round is greater than the number 6. Okay. Inside the if statement of this. What? Inside the if statement. Oh, yeah. We are in here. So if, and we'll say round greater than 6, we'll do something. All right. Check the code. Looks good and submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 62. So inside our if statement, we'll add a set timeout function that takes in a callback function and delay set to 500 milliseconds, so half a second. Inside our timeout function, we'll add an alert with the message of game over. Your total score is total score. All right. So that's what we'll do right here. We'll do set timeout, and we'll do the callback function. So we'll do this right here, and we'll set it to 500 milliseconds, and we'll add an alert inside of here. Alert. All right. And we'll say the string game over. No, capital over. Game over with an exclamation point. Your total score is. Then we'll do an embedded expression. And then inside the embedded expression. Also, let's make this a template literal. Why not? Okay, so inside the embedded expression, we'll say total score like that. Let's come to the end, cap it off with a semicolon, check the code, looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 63. I'm going to have to check that later because, I mean, literally I can't. I'm in the middle of something right now. But yeah, leave that in a new comment on the video itself, and I'll check it out, all right? So now we're on to step 63. If we go through 6 rounds of the game, we should see the alert show up with our final score. But when we dismiss the alert, we are able to keep playing for more rounds past the original 6. To fix this, we will need to reset the game. We'll start by creating an arrow function called reset game. All right, so we'll say const reset game equals, and then we'll have the set of parentheses. We'll have the arrow, and then we'll have the empty object like that. So let's check the code. Looks good, and submit it. All right, now we're on to step 64. So inside our reset game function, we'll reassign the dice values R variable to an array of 5 zeros. Below that, we'll reassign the variables score, total score, and rolls to 0. Okay. And then lastly, we'll reassign the round variable to 1. So inside the reset game, we're going to reassign this dice values to an array of 5 zeros. Okay, makes sense. Below that, we'll reassign the variable score, total score, and rolls to 0, and then we'll make round 1. Okay, cool. So we'll say dice values are equals. We'll have an array. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. We'll cap that off with a semicolon. Then we'll have score equals 0. We'll cap that off with a semicolon. We'll take 100 up to the end of 99, copy that, drop it off after 100 twice, 3 times, why not? And then let's take score. The second score, we'll turn it into total score. Total score. We'll change this third one to rolls. We'll change this fourth one to round. And we'll change the round 0 to a 1 like that. That should be what they want. So let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right. Now we're on to step 65. All right. So to reset each of the dice values to show 0, we'll apply a for each method to the list of all dice variable. For our callback function, we'll use dice and index as parameters. All right. So we'll say list of all dice. Are we still within here? All right. Let's tab this over. List of all dice. And that's going to say, we're going to say dot for each. And then we're going to say dice and index as parameters. So dice, comma, index. Then we'll do this right here with the arrow. And then we'll have the empty object like that. Let's check the code. Looks good. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 66. So inside our callback function, we're going to update the dice text content by assigning it the value of dice values R index. Pardon me. So we'll say dice.text content, dice.text content now equals dice values R at index. All right, let's cap that off with a semicolon. So let's check the code. Nope. Dice.text content. Dice.text content. Dice values R. Let's check it. Looks good. And submit it. All right, now we're on to step 67. So with that, that's another 22 down. So I'm going to take a break. We'll come back to this at about probably 11 o'clock Central Standard Time, whatever that time is for you. And we'll get to the last, I think, 21 of these, and then we'll be done with it. So thank you all for watching this. I'll get to this little comment on whatever video, step 9 on whichever one it was. And we'll see you next time.